Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, wherever you stream the video content that you so desire, because then you get to see the beautiful faces of Carter Augustine and Ali Trost and my old ugly mug as well. And by the way, new backdrop for me, guys. It's too nice outside today to be in the basement, so I apologize if you hear some birds chirping or some wind, but sorry, not sorry, because I'm on the back deck today doing the show. I couldn't sit inside and do this thing. So we've got a lot to get to on the show coming up today. Felipe Hernandez is going to join us, one of the young kids that has been carrying the midfield for Sporting KC ever since the return to home markets phase of MLS play. He got another start over the weekend in front of his family. We're going to talk to him about all of that. We will recap the 1-0 victory for Sporting KC over their nicest rivals, Minnesota United, to win the series, at least unless they play each other again. Who knows? The rest of 2020. And we're going to preview the next phase of games. 3 games coming up that we know about on the schedule for Sporting KC. So with that, I'll bring in the 2 regular contributors on the show, Carter Augustine in front of the scarf wall at Compass Minerals facility, and Ali Trost. Carter, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing great, Nate. I wish I was outside. I think props to you taking full advantage of this beautiful week we're having.
Just, it's a great thing about laptops and wireless technology, right? And Ali, I feel like I'm really rubbing it in right now, sitting outside as you are on like week 96 of quarantine. Where are we at nowadays?
It sure feels like it, although I did keep track today. I went back and counted 26 days. I have my sanity scenic nature walks have been big for me. Make sure to obviously social distance on my way out of the apartment, but I would go sit on the balcony for this, although the train passing pretty frequently would not make as nice of some background ambiance as the birds and beautiful nature sounds of Overland Park. So I will stay inside, but yes, like I've been doing, staying inside, still COVID positive, but feeling good. And hopefully this weekend we can pull back a negative test for me.
Positives of the hipster Crossroads apartment, beautiful view of downtown and the Kauffman Center and all those things. Negatives, a little bit of extra Nat sound that makes it harder to do shows.
Way too close to Union Station. The number of times that I've been recording a segment here or trying to do an interview and it's like just like I can't even do the noise because it's very loud. It's not pleasant at all. It's not like, you can just, maybe that was our washing machine. No, it is a train and you can hear it. So we'll see if we can hear it today. But
Paul McCartney once said, everybody loves the sound of a train in the distance. The key part of that is in the distance, though.
In the distance. Not in your backyard, I can tell you that. I tried to sleep with the window open the other night, and it was just like every 30 minutes or so, I'm like up till 2 a.m, like, what is going on? So no windows open anymore in this apartment.
But you're advanced in baking skills now, we understand. You've been bragging to all of our guests about that.
Banana bread is a thumbs up. The 2-ingredient bread rolls I tried to make the other night, major thumbs down. Very disgusting. Do not recommend anything that's only 2 ingredients and you put it in the oven. Probably it's not going to come out very well, but I saw it on TikTok. I was bored at halftime of the Monday Night Football game, and far ways to go before I become a Betty Crocker or Martha Stewart type, but we're on the way.
Carter, have you picked up any pandemic hobbies? Are you culinary skills improving, anything like that?
I would say I've been cooking a lot as well, so the culinary skills have definitely improved. That's been a benefit. I've actually been working out more than I ever have before, just out of boredom. So I think that was the key to finally get me to start doing some physical exercise. So that's been pretty good.
Hey, we all need to find motivation somewhere. Now I know that you're working out. I'm going to really lean heavily on you to step up for the Big Steps 2301K that's coming up in early October, by the way.
Man, let us know what are the details on that.
Yeah, Carter, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I will go ahead and give a little plug to it as a charity foundation that some friends of mine and I started 9 years ago in honor of a friend of ours, Sean Biggs, that died of cancer. And we put on a 5K, 10K every year to raise money for cancer awareness. We raise money for kids who have lost their parents to cancer or have a parent that's battling cancer. And this year, we're also raising money to help testing for employees of cancer centers that way cancer patients that are going in there at high risk during a pandemic can go into the facilities knowing that they're safe and that the people that are treating them are not COVID positive. So those are the things we're raising money for. And what we've decided to do this year, since because of the pandemic, can't really do the in-person 5K, 10K that we wanted to, we are doing a virtual race. It's a long story, but my friend Sean that had passed away was from Kansas, then lived in Boston after grad school. He ran for the Boston Athletic Association, ran the Boston Marathon a bunch of times, really plugged into the running community there. So Kansas City is basically taking on Boston in a virtual run for 2 weeks. We're calling it the Big Steps 2301K. That's how many kilometers from Kansas City to Boston. And we're calling it Cowtown versus Beantown. And we basically are, what you do is you go on to bigsteps.org, BIGG steps.org. You register for $25, and then you just put in as many miles as you can from October 4th to the 18th. So that's a 2-week period. Now, by the way, this doesn't count like wearing your Fitbit around and just walking around the house getting your steps in does not count. These need to be miles that you either walk or run. It's got to be on foot too, no biking or anything, but miles you either walk or run specifically to take steps for the race. Okay, so you go out of your house and you walk a mile, that's a mile. And then you go log it every night. We're going to add up the miles. Every day we're going to track how close Kansas City's getting to Boston and how close Boston's getting to Kansas City. We've got sponsors that are putting incentives up for it. If we get to Boston first, we're going to win more money. There's a trophy on the line. And we're going to basically take on the greatest running community in the country, the city of Boston, and we're going to beat them, Kansas City. And for you two, I have enlisted a professional, a peer of ours by the name of Elizabeth Pahota. She is now the sideline reporter for the New England Revolution, and she just ran the virtual Boston Marathon on Saturday of this weekend. And I talked to her, had a nice talk with her last week. She is going to try to help raise awareness on the Boston side of things, and she's going to participate. And so I want the two of you to challenge her, and I want to see if one of you two can beat her for miles.
No,
Or,
no.
Not
Elizabeth
fair.
is one of my great friends. That girl could run more than Carter and I could bind. Like, Carter,
well, that's
we're
the
going to have to
challenge.
team
The
up.
two of you combined might have a chance. So,
Okay,
you
I'm
know,
down. I'm down. I'll try. You
Come
know
on.
what? I might have to bring Tom in. We might like need to multiply our group by like 5. That girl, shout out to her. She does so many great things in the New England area and with the Revolution, but she can also, she has the physical stamina to do so as well. So yeah, just saw those pictures. That's awesome.
That's a really cool idea, Nate, and I'm happy to help the Kansas City cause. Just don't put me up against Elizabeth. That's even with Allie. I don't know. That just doesn't seem.
hey,
She's gonna do one day and run a marathon and then I'm like, well, I can't do that too.
She can run more miles in one day than I probably do in like an entire year's time.
Yeah.
So.
I'm hearing a lot of excuses from you two, and I got to be honest, I'm very disappointed right now because I think that she's going to be the way you got to look at it, she's going to be tired from the Boston Marathon thing. And so this is your chance to get her while she's worn out. She just played 3 games in 15 days or whatever it's called, and so this is the time to pounce. But either way, I do appreciate you guys and spread the word. The way that we're going to beat Boston is quantity over quality, because they got all these Boston Athletic Association guys that are some of the elite runners in the world, and they're all telling me they're going to run 100 miles each over 2 weeks. And that's all well and good, but we're going to overwhelm them with our number of people that are doing it, and we're going to win this thing.
Let's do it.
And we're going to raise a lot of money for a good cause. So bigsteps.org, if you guys get a chance, biggsteps.org. Thank you for that moment to plug away at that charity. Meanwhile, on Kick Childhood Cancer Day, as we transition, September is Kick Childhood Cancer Month. The superhero scarf right behind Carter right there is perfect from last year. There you go. Sporting Kansas City got a win 1-0 over Minnesota United on Kick Childhood Cancer Day at Children's Mercy Park. And let's talk about it, guys, because At halftime, Allie, what are you thinking when Sporting KC's put up 15 shots and has no goals after, in the second half of their last home game, putting up 15 shots and getting no goals to show for it against FC Dallas? What was going through your mind at that point in the game?
Well, at first, my thought was someone had to have moved these goals, right? I feel like they were just getting so close, whether it was going wide or, a couple shots over the top, or a lot of pinball type moments in the box that just couldn't seem to get the right touch on the end of them. But yeah, I'll be honest, at halftime, it felt like same old story that we've been seeing now this season, where Sporting will dominate majority of the possession, majority of the game, have a lot of great opportunities, and just not be able to find that finishing touch. And this is even without Alan Polito, Eric Hurtado available, and other players as well. It seems like it didn't even matter who was on the field at times, that Sporting had just kept running into these unlucky moments. And it definitely felt like that on Sunday night. But like Peter Vermees said at the end of the game, if you're able to pull out a win, even if it's not always pretty, even if you've got so many opportunities, they finished with 26 shots total, and you maybe only just get that one, that's all you need. And I think the most impressive part of this game wasn't that they were able to finally pull back a goal. It's defensively, how well this team did to shut down a Minnesota team that had been really hot offensively and had the scoring spread out amongst 10 players over the last couple of games. So just really impressed with Sporting's efforts and their ability to mentally stay in a very frustrating game.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look. I think they would have been very frustrated not to win that game because of the way they dominated and, the way Minnesota set up, which almost worked for them, which, resting some of their big guns, trying to hold on for 60 minutes and then try and, steal a result is kind of what it looked like to me, at least from Minnesota's point of view, coming off their couple games in the week leading up to this one. So I think, just an incredible ball and well-timed run from Johnny Russell to break the deadlock there in the 80th minute or so. They've created a lot of chances, and you have to hope that they'll start converting them like they were at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I think, we heard from Matt Beazer before the game saying it felt like they really needed to win this, considering the 4 games before that, getting just the 2 points. So it's a big win. And like Allie, you just said, you got to get the 3 points somehow. And we've seen a lot of championship caliber teams that lock up 1-0s over the course of a season. So a 1-0 scoreline, it's maybe not indicative of how much more they had the ball and how many more chances they created, but it's all they needed in the end. And back to the Kick Childhood Cancer, just in case anyone's not aware, if you tweet the hashtag Kick Childhood Cancer this month, Continental Tire donates $25 to pediatric cancer research. It seems like the easiest $25 donation you can ever make in your life, and it's not even you making it. So I just, if you're listening, just tweet out hashtag Kick Childhood Cancer all month long, and it'll go a long way.
Yeah, there's usually a lot of people on Twitter that like to get on there and make grandiose statements about how much they care about things, but it usually doesn't mean anything. You can actually tweet something that will donate $25. Actually, you can actually do something on Twitter that helps somebody. So yeah, absolutely. Hashtag Kick Childhood Cancer. It's a great shout, Carter. I'll tell you what makes me most encouraged and most excited about not just this result, but where Sporting Kansas City find themselves right now. Yes, they're in first place in the West. We know there's a long way to go in this season, and we know that it's very tight. They might not even be at first place by the time Saturday rolls around. But they're in first place while playing without their starting midfield from the beginning of the season. With Alan Polito, the biggest signing in the history of the franchise money-wise, he's on the bench. He's not available to play. These young players for Sporting KC are gaining valuable minutes. We're about to talk to Felipe Hernandez about how much he's just grown in 5-6 games. We've talked to Gianluca Busio, and not only has he told us how much he's grown as a player in those games, you can see it. I mean, it's almost like watching one of those stop-action films of a plant growing out of the ground. As it's just like, it seems like it's happening at this rapid pace, and you can see every game he just gets more and more comfortable and aware. These guys are getting these type of minutes, and the team's not falling to the bottom of the standings as a result of it. I don't know where Sporting's going to end up this season. I don't know where this season's going to go. But most oftentimes, the fear, we always hear, play your kids, play your kids. That's a common refrain in today's MLS. But it's easy to tell someone else to play their kids when you aren't the one that has to suffer the consequences of those kids going out on the field and suffering growing pains. And there have been some growing pains. But for Sporting Kansas City to be able to go through all of those growing pains, suffer some of those fits and starts that young players might have, and still win at least enough games or get enough results to be in the mix for the number one seed in the West if and when the playoffs come, what more could you ask for? And now all of a sudden, if and when some of these veteran players come back and are able to play later in the season when it's really crunch time, you've got this group of young players who are buoyed by this confidence and experience that they've gotten through this part of the schedule. Carter, to me, like what more could you ask for if you're trying to develop some young players right now?
I mean, it's a scoreless game, and the coaching staff elects to bring on Cameron Duke in this past game against Minnesota United, and he had a real impact. I think you're spot on, and we've talked about it, Allie, a few times, in that what Nate just said, they're getting these experiences now so that perhaps in the future, when it gets to crunch time, they can make a real difference, having already played and already kind of got maybe the nerves out of their system a little bit.
Absolutely. I've been saying this now for a few weeks, and you see the criticism online. Well, play the kids, we'll score goals. Well, here's the thing, Nate, I think you put it perfectly. They're getting valuable minutes that down the stretch, when it really matters and you get into playoff ball, we might be seeing Cameron Duke rip a shot off that is the difference between a win and a loss. We might see Felipe Hernandez make a crucial pass that results in an Alan Pulido goal. We might see them more productive on the stat sheet when it comes to scoring and assisting goals. I also think it's important to note that this Minnesota team got aggressive at halftime. They switched up their formation. They try to be more aggressive in the attack, and they bring in their new signing, Reynoso, who they limited to just 50% pass completion in that game. They really cut off a lot of his opportunities, and I think made it really tough for Minnesota down the middle of the field and even down the flanks. And if you look at that midfield and that middle third of the field, that was controlled by Gianluca Busio, by Cameron Duke, by Felipe Hernandez to close out that game. And I just am beyond impressed at their ability to not just transition back and play defense, but to also get forward in the attack and really contribute to an attack that really struggled to find the back of the net on Sunday night, but one that had a lot of great opportunities. And I think that those opportunities are only going to make these players better, and these experiences are going to become like muscle memory, where again, down the stretch, you need those experiences to rise to the occasion in those moments. And that's what is building right now for these young players.
Reynoso only completed 50% of his passes in the game. I hadn't seen that.
6 of 12.
Wow.
So he was very, you can look at a couple of other factors there, but I think from a productivity standpoint, he wasn't nearly as productive as he could have been. And he played just under 30 minutes of that game. So I think that says a lot. And Gianluca Busio, that was a big matchup for him.
Well, he came on kind of like a false nine, and I think you have to give a shout out to the SKC coaching staff for making their change to a false nine, Gadi Kinda, considering kind of the limited options they had in this particular game, and it winds up leading to the goal. And Johnny Russell talked about it, but when Kinda comes in, he's playing the false nine, and he's going to drop a little bit deeper, and Russell's got to be the one that runs in behind, and he saw that, and turns out that tactical adjustment is what wound up leading to the goal as well. So it was interesting to see Minnesota go with it, but Sporting went with it, and it really worked for them.
Yeah, that might have been a case of necessity being the mother of invention when both Hurtado and Pulido are in street clothes, and Kyrie Shelton starts to have some muscle tightness, according to Peter Vermees, and they wanted to be careful. They didn't want it to turn into a situation where he's out for 2 to 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, Keena goes in there, and like you said, Carter, and you have to give credit to the players on the field for taking advantage of their advantage at that point, because all of a sudden, that's a tiny lineup out there with Russell, with the three-headed attack of Gerso, Russell, and Gadi Kinda. Russell's the big guy. in that, in that trio. But all of a sudden, and then Cameron Duke in there, there's pace. And those four little guys darting in and out, not knowing where they're going to pick up, all of a sudden that caused a lot of problems for that Minnesota back line.
Yeah, Matt Beasler. Sorry,
no, go
Alec,
ahead, Carter.
Matt Beasler, after the game, he actually credited the front line, including Kyrie Shelton, for throughout the game, the runs that they were making and perhaps not getting rewarded for them. And he said that just kind of takes a toll on a back line. And my new vantage point during these games on the sideline, I'm kind of in the corner. And I was on that side with Johnny Russell in the second half and actually watching him, and Gasper had come in for the second half. So that was a really good battle to watch throughout that second half. But he kept trying to get wide to the touchline and make that diagonal run and kind of lose Gasper. And it was really fascinating to watch throughout the entire game. And then for Matt Beasler to say after the game, hey, you have to credit these guys because they ran them ragged. These runs in behind are really difficult to deal with. And it's you're not always going to get rewarded, but you do it because sometimes you will, and then you have to be a good enough player to finish, and that's what Johnny Russell did.
Well, and have to include Felipe Hernandez in this conversation as well. You talk about their defensive efforts up top. Each of them had a ton of pressures and not a ton of blocks, but they really did put up some great numbers on the stat sheet in terms of the pressure and the blocks that they were winning in the attacking third of the game. And that really was a difference maker that shut down Minnesota fast and early. And then you counter that with the fact that they've got so much speed going forward. They caused a ton of problems for a Minnesota defense that, again, the final score is not indicative of just how dangerous the Sporting Kansas City attack was, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively as well.
So Sporting gets the win by a score of 1-0. They're back in first place, at least for now. We're going to take a break. When we come back, one of those young players that keeps growing in confidence and experience is Felipe Hernandez. He's going to join us next on the Sporting Kansas City Show. And the Sporting Kansas City Show continues on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, and, of course, wherever you get your podcast, wherever you stream your online video content, be that on the 810 Facebook page or the 810 YouTube page and podcasting. All of that, we appreciate it no matter how you're getting the show, as we are talking first place Sporting Kansas City. And we're talking with one of those young homegrown players who, according to Johnny Russell, continues to grow in confidence. And the more confidence they get, the more annoying they get, was what Johnny said after the game, after Sporting got a big 1-0 victory on Sunday night. Felipe Hernandez joins us on the show now. Hello, Felipe. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
So what's your reaction to Johnny's – he was tongue-in-cheek. He was joking. But he said that he was asked a question about you and the other young guys that are getting a lot of playing time over the last 5 or 6 games, and he said – the more confidence, the more annoying you guys get. What's your response to Johnny's comment there?
I'd agree with that. I mean, we're all confident and trying to annoy him as much as he annoys us. So we're trying to play with him. So
okay, what does he do? What is like the most annoying Johnny Russell moment of the 2020 season thus far, especially in the last couple of weeks?
Most annoying? I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, he's a lot to handle, but. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I mean, it's good to have that in the locker room. Just the banter in the locker room. He brings a lot of like energy and just happy moments in the locker room. But annoying, I couldn't tell you one because there's too many.
How long we got, right? How long is it? First of all, hey Felipe, I gotta commend you on your background. It's a nice painting you got. It's a lot stronger background than some of your teammates.
Yeah, I don't know. My parents got me that a few months ago. So
I dig it. Strong Zoom background game. So props to you there. Kind of based off of Johnny's joke, I was wondering, do you feel like you're growing in confidence out there on the field, considering all the minutes you've been getting recently?
Yeah, of course. It's tough to transition from playing all these like USL minutes and everything. And then all of a sudden playing like MLS minutes and stuff. It's a tough transition, to be honest. And I've been gaining confidence with every game, every start, or whatever appearance I make. But it's always good to get a run. in every game, like you said. Every game builds confidence and builds towards something better.
So what makes it tough? I mean, I think we can all imagine a few of the things, but what are the biggest differences you've noticed, and what makes it so hard going from USL to MLS?
The level of play, honestly, like you guys probably knew that already. The level of play, the pace. It's got to be. It's kind of something where you can't really make mistakes because they're pointed out and they're visible. In the USL, you can make a few mistakes and get away with them, but here in the MLS, it's just tougher to. If you do make a mistake, then it's obvious to most people because the other team they're obviously good enough to expose the team. Like if you do something wrong, they'll counter or something. So you just gotta limit the mistakes and limit the mistakes and do as much as you can.
Felipe, Coach Peter Vermees, other veteran teammates have all given a lot of praise to you and the young players who have really stepped up, especially in this third phase now of the MLS season. And I want to go back to something that you said when we talked to you after signing your first team contract last year. And you said that you're a type of player, you always want more, you're never content. And now that you've not only made the first team, you've broken into the starting lineup, what more do you want now? What's that next height that you're trying to reach?
Just keep starting. Get as many starts as possible. Get wins. Of course, that's the main goal, to get wins with the team. Doesn't matter if I'm starting, if I'm coming off the bench, if I'm staying on the bench. I just want to be available. Just be a good team player, and if we can get wins, then that's all that matters.
I'm glad Ali brought up that interview from last year when you signed. I thought it was a really good one. And if anyone hasn't listened, go back in the archives. And another thing you brought up was kind of, you saw yourself almost in a similar role as Roger Espinoza, similar skill set. And we talked to him earlier this year, and he actually brought up that comparison by himself. And he said that you remind him of a younger, and he said more talented version of himself at that particular age. I know we saw you as his son in a golf video down in Orlando, but what's the relationship like with Roger? Do you guys talk a lot about that midfield role? And I'm curious if he's kind of shed any insight into you guys being similar players like that.
Yeah, he's since I came to the academy, he's always been, he's always like talked to me. I think he was like one of the first guys that was like actually like talking to me, trying to bring me into the team, and like I guess like surround himself with me and just try to make me feel comfortable and stuff. But yeah, I think it was a few days ago he told me there's no one else in this world that plays the same position as you do that will tell you as much as I do, because I tell you everything to do and you do it, and then it puts you on the field. So yeah, he's always been a nice guy to me and cool and a good teammate. So yeah, he's a good guy.
Can you give us a piece of advice, whether it's big picture or something that happened in a game that really stands out to you that Roger's told you over the past year or two?
It was last week. He told me you just need to win. I'm telling you right now, you need to win 3 balls. I don't care if you intercept them, if you pick someone off, if you strip them, whatever it is. I just want you to win 3 balls, and we'll get a result. And he would, after the game, I think he told me, he was like, "See, I told you. I think you had 3 or 4 interceptions, and we won the game." And he was like, "I'm never wrong. I'm telling you the right things to do." I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything he says is beneficial. So.
Well, not only that, you also provided a ton of pressure in the midfield, especially in this last game against Minnesota United. And Peter Vermees, after the game, mentioned just from a positional standpoint how well the team did in calling out the midfield. He's been asked about the young players just about every single press conference. You know, we talk about confidence and the growing confidence, and a lot of times that does come with knowing what you're doing. There's nothing that builds more confidence than just having everything kind of figured out. How much more confident do you feel in what your assignments are on the field, where you should be, how to approach certain situations of the game? You know, where is that level of confidence at for you?
It's getting there. I wouldn't say it's there 100%, because there's sometimes I'm hesitant on some things that when I should press or when I should stay back. It's kind of kind of hesitant at times, but from the first game that I played, I'd say that it's grown a lot. And as the games go on, then I feel like it'll keep growing. So I'll get there soon, hopefully.
So we talked to Matt Beasler on the pregame show for this past game, and he said against Minnesota United, you guys really needed to win. For a while there, it looked like the floodgates were never going to break, but you get that Johnny Russell goal and you get the win. What'd you make of the overall performance, and I guess how you guys feeling after getting those 3 points?
Yeah, I thought it was a good performance overall. Obviously, we wanted to score more goals, but at the end of the day, we scored more goals than they did, so we got the win. It was a good. We created chances. I mean, we didn't put them all away, but it was good on that piece that we created a bunch of chances. And defensively, I thought we stood our ground well and made it tough on them. I don't think they had any shots on goal, so that's always big. A shutout's always big time too. So
we're visiting with Felipe Hernandez. I have 2 questions for you to go back to some things you've said earlier in this interview, Felipe. And the first one is you mentioned the idea that the biggest challenge from going from USL to MLS is you just can't make mistakes, because if you do, they get exposed and everyone's going to know about it. The other team's going to take advantage of it. And that makes perfect sense. At the same time, I heard Johnny Russell say after the game when he was talking about you young guys, one of the words that stood out to me was he used the word trust. We trust those guys. And all of us have spent enough time on a soccer field to know when you're on a field with guys that don't trust you, they don't pass you the ball, right? Like they don't believe you're going to be able to take care of things, and you can feel it when you're in a game. So to that end, I also would think it's got to be really difficult to play a game being worried about making mistakes, because then you're not playing with a free mind. So how do you approach that when you know you can't make mistakes, but you can't be constantly worried about making mistakes, right? How do you balance that, and how have you grown in that aspect of the game over these last couple months?
Yeah, I mean, it's good because we have a bunch of veteran players, and they know that that as young players you can't really crush them for a mistake, and because then it gets into your head and you start thinking about things, and like you said, you can't really play well and you can't think. So a few times when I did make a mistake on the field this past game, a few veteran players like Zeus, he was just talking to me, just telling me, just relax and stuff, like just play simple or something. And yeah, I mean, just that kind of encouragement keeps you going and keeps your mind free of thinking the bad things. And because when you do get kind of, say you make a mistake, you kind of start thinking of it. Like when you're young, you start thinking, and then you keep overthinking it, and then the next play comes, and you're still thinking about the last play. So it's tough, but yeah, with the veteran guys, it's kind of easier because they're there to support instead of get onto you.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask about was, look, I know that size and power is far from the most important thing in the sport of soccer. It's not like American football or basketball or something like that. But, you're a smaller guy. Cameron Duke's a smaller guy. I wonder about – and you play a physical type of soccer. We keep comparing you to Roger Espinoza. He's one of the most physical players in the league. Has that been a transition for you at all? Are you noticing anything about the physicality of play in MLS compared to USL? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that experience.
To be honest, I'd say it's kind of the same. I would say in the USL, everything's more – I'd say it's a little bit more aggressive in the sense that in the USL, everyone just wants to show out. And as soon as someone gets the ball, they're right up your butt, and you have no time for anything. So like I would say it's a little bit more aggressive, but yeah, of course there's a little bit more of a like stronger guys in the MLS maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I would say it's pretty even, to be honest.
So the bigger difference is the speed and skill level, it sounds like, more so than the physicality.
Yeah. I mean, there's guys from all over the world and in the MLS, well, in the USL too, but there's just big time players in the MLS, and you can see the difference in skill sets.
Felipe, speaking of some of those big time players, now that you've taken the field for Sporting more on the first team, who's a player that you've played against that you were a little starstruck or like, oh my gosh, I'm going up against insert player's name?
Yeah, Darwin Quintero from the Dynamo. When I was about 10 years old, I always watched him on Colombia's national team, and I watched him when he played in Mexico and just when he played everywhere. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. I think the first time I saw him in person was, I think, last year in Minnesota when I signed like a 3-day contract to play an Open Cup or just roster.
Mm-hmm.
And this year playing against them like 2 times, I don't even know. Like, it's just crazy because I was talking to my parents this weekend about that. Like 10 years ago, I would have never thought, oh, I'm going to be playing against this guy. And in 10 years. And yeah, I mean, on the field, I caught myself a few times just like looking at him and like, what the heck? This guy's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, what an incredible player as well. So that's a pretty cool story, man. And you mentioned your parents. They were here for the game this past weekend. Was that their first time seeing you for SKC? And what was that like for them and for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like a month since they've been wanting to come, but with all these away games, and I think we had home games like on the weekdays, so they couldn't come because of their work and stuff. Finally, this game was on a Sunday, so they took Monday off, and and luckily I got a start, so it was even better for them. I mean, they would have came anyways, but it was just special that they were there for a start.
Is that when they brought you that painting?
No, they should have brought me a new one. This was a few months ago.
Okay. Hey, I want to go back to Quintero. Did you get his jersey afterwards?
No, I didn't. I should have, but I didn't.
Have you?
Last year I asked him in Minnesota, and then we had to do fitness. So I said, I'll get it after. And then I just ended up forgetting, and we were doing fitness. So.
Well, with the way the schedule's going, you'll probably play Houston 3 more times this year.
I was just going to say.
Exactly. I have a few more chances.
Yeah.
You got to do that, though. I mean, look, we talked to Jacob Peterson, who does the games with me, and he always said, look, I was never one of those guys. I didn't want to put someone that I was playing against on a pedestal, so I never asked for any jerseys. But now my career's over, and I'm kind of like, man, I should have got a few mementos from it's more of a sign of mutual respect that, hey, I went up against this guy, and hopefully you can say you went up against him and beat him. Do you have any jerseys? Have you gotten any cool jerseys from anybody you've played against?
Not in the MLS, but if you guys remember Kevin Oliveira.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I think we played them in Ottawa last year, we changed jerseys. So I have his jersey over there in my closet. So I think that's the only guy that I've ever swapped jerseys with.
Two Swope Park Ranger legends right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Hey, well, maybe if you get Quintero's jersey, you can replace the painting behind you with a nice shadow box of the jersey there. But
yeah, for sure.
I'm curious, we were talking a little bit before we started the interview about quarantine and the unusual year of 2020. What is something, this is the first time we've talked to you this season. What's something that you did in quarantine that maybe not a lot of other people did? Any DIY projects, baking, any sort of hobbies that you picked up?
Nothing other than playing Xbox and just watching movies. I mean, I'm really laid back, so I didn't really try anything new. I just kind of watch TV, watch YouTube and Netflix and stuff, and just played a lot of Xbox. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Any movie recommendations from someone in quarantine still?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. But if you haven't seen You, which you guys probably have, I mean, You is really good on Netflix.
Okay, I'll add it to
Is that a movie or is that a show? Is that a series or a movie?
It's a series. It's really good.
Okay.
There we
What
go.
about what's the game of choice on the Xbox?
For me, it's Fortnite.
Yeah.
Fortnite and FIFA.
My you're talking my son's language right now because I can't have a conversation with him that doesn't get into Fortnite at some point. From what I understand, Marvel comic characters are involved in the game now. Is that right?
Yeah, they're adding a bunch of stuff to it. I mean, it's getting out of hand.
Okay.
I've got a feeling that
Felipe,
they'll be playing this weekend. Like I have a good feeling.
I'll have to get your handle.
Yeah, we can do that. We can work something out.
My son has had a couple of knockdown drag out to victory royales with Kyrie on the
I'll need some
Fortnite.
help with that. I didn't have too many, so I'll need some help.
He tells me the whole trick is getting in the right lobby. So
Yeah, that's true too.
he likes to put me on his team because then you get in a bad lobby with a bunch of bad players. You have a chance to win. So
Yeah,
that's the only purpose I serve in the game.
That's called sandbagging, Nate. That's called sandbagging.
That's right. Hey, look, you got to find whatever niche it is that you have to get yourself on the field, no matter what the sport is. You know, you got to bring something to the table.
Exactly.
Hey,
Felipe, congratulations on what's been an awesome run so far this season. Is your family still in town? You going to spend some more time with them, or are they back home now?
They're back home. They left yesterday. I think they left in the morning, so they got back late at night last night.
Well, we're glad you got some time with your family. We're really enjoying watching you play right now, and congratulations on everything. Best of luck the rest of the season.
All right, thank you guys so much.
That's Felipe Hernandez. We'll take a break, and we'll preview the next phase of the Sporting KC schedule. We got 3 games coming up now that we know about right after we come back on the Sporting Kansas City Show. And we're back to wrap things up on this edition of the Sporting KC Show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, all of the places you get your wonderful podcasts. We hope you subscribe and like it and let everybody else know about it. And, of course, if you want to watch us on video on the 810 Facebook page or the YouTube channel, as we now, guys, move into phase 2 of part 3 of this stop-start 2020 MLS season. Saturday, 2:30, Children's Mercy Park, Sporting KC against FC Dallas. Then the following Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. against Orlando City. And then the following Sunday, September 27th at 8 o'clock Central Time at the Colorado Rapids. Guys, I think it's pretty obvious why Orlando City's in there out of those 3 teams. But how do you figure FC Dallas and Colorado made the run?
No idea.
It's
Hey,
like
look.
Groundhog's Day this season. My God.
Hey, we have a little fun with the schedule, and obviously that is a bit of a non sequitur. Orlando City, I don't know why they ended up being the team that Sporting KC gets. I don't envy the schedule makers in MLS. They've got a million different things to navigate right now, and they're doing the best they can. And I'm not going to complain because we'll take games. I want games. I want Sporting to have something to play for, and that's what they've got. Let's start with this game at 2:30 on Saturday against FC Dallas. Carter, this is a rematch of a game at Children's Mercy Park. FC Dallas have sold another one of their players over to Europe, one of their top strikers. They already sold Reggie Cannon as well. And Paxton Pomacall is out, but something tells me they're going to come to town and make themselves a very difficult team to beat, just like they did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And we saw Acosta go down in that game. I think that was a big game changer for them.
He hasn't played since.
Yep. But they did have their new guy come in, Rick Arte, and wow, what a goal he scored against Houston, huh? I mean, that might be goal of the season. Absolute rope of a volley, a side volley. I mean, one of my favorite goals that's been scored all season. So maybe he'll be a big difference maker. But last time we highlighted the kind of the young talent on each side. FC Dallas, of course, known for bringing players through the ranks, and SKC as well. So I'm hoping we get to see a little bit more of that, and maybe a little rivalry between the academy products for both sides coming up. But Sporting, I think we're disappointed to have a draw in that Dallas game, considering how they controlled after the first 15 or 20 minutes or so. So I'm looking forward to the rematch.
Yeah, Carter, totally agree, and think that, you know, this is a Sporting team now that has a lot of momentum moving forward. They got that win finally out of the way that they've been clawing and scratching at. And I think if there's one thing we've learned in this very unusual 2020 season, it's that the standings don't necessarily indicate how the game's going to go. And even though this Houston team, this FC Dallas team, Colorado all sit kind of at the bottom of the Western Conference standings, you're going to get a good game, or a game where the outcome could be different than what time of possession looks like, or what certain opportunities, shots on goal look like. So I think that, these next 3 games are going to be big for Sporting. And on one hand, it's an advantage to have already seen FC Dallas and Colorado. Really looking forward to this Orlando game, just out of the sheer fact that we're going to see a different opponent for the first time in what feels like forever. But no, every game there's something on the line, and it feels like any upset could happen at any time. So really looking forward to this match Saturday at an unusual time too for Sporting, 2:30 p.m. It's different.
Yeah, I'm just glad that it's 2:30 p.m. in the middle of September and not 2:30
Yes.
p.m. in the middle of July or August, which we've had some of those over the years at Children's Mercy Park. So I think it should be just fine in terms of the conditions for that game. It's supposed to be beautiful this weekend in Kansas City. And by the way, single game tickets are available to the general public this time around. For the first phase of the return to home markets, it was just season ticket holders who had access to those tickets. They're opening it up to the general public. If you feel comfortable with it, they've had a chance to put these protocols in place for a few games now. You want to get out there, you can go to sportingkc.com and check out your options right there. And then, of course, the game on Wednesday night at 6:30 against Orlando. Ali mentioned that. Hey, there's some exciting players that will be coming to town to watch Carter with that Orlando City team, and a couple of them that really showed out down in Orlando for the MLS's back tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they were the darlings of the tournament. A lot of people would have to argue, and I'm just like Ali. I just want to see anything different at this point. So I'm excited to see it from that respect. But they look a different Orlando side, and I think Peter Vermees was asked about it already, even before this Dallas game, about facing a new team, and he pointed out Oscar Pareja, just a fantastic coach, and he's come in and already looks to have his hands all over that squad. So he's already done a good job. But I just want to go back to Ali's point about each game mattering so much, because it's going to be a shortened season, and I think the verbiage in the schedule is that each team will play a maximum of 23 games. So that means there's not a whole lot of margin of error here, because sure, Dallas right now they're currently outside of the playoffs in ninth, but they've played 2 less games than Sporting and are only 7 points behind. So, in theory, we always say it's tough to win games in hand in MLS, but in theory, they're right up there as well. So there's not a lot separating the top from the bottom in this shortened season, and each of these games is so important.
No doubt about it. And then the last game of this next 3 game stretch is Colorado. You mentioned them too, being not in a great place in the standings, but what a resounding victory they got this past week against an RSL team that looked like they were in the ascendancy. So Diego Rubio with a couple of goals in that game. I think they scored 5 by the end of it against Real Salt Lake. So, and for Sporting KC, they got to be feeling like, we have got to win a game in Colorado, for the love of God. That has been a nightmarish place for them, but they have to look at it and say to themselves, this is a place we can and should be able to finally win a game at some point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that it's just kind of a weird monkey on their back now that they can't seem to shake. And Carter, I mean, it feels almost like we're just kind of beating this point into the ground, but really, like any game, anything could happen, and each game carries so much more weight with a shortened season and not much room for error. But, this is a Colorado side that's motivated, that always brings their A game when they play Sporting Kansas City. And then, this was a big point of emphasis on the broadcast in that last game, but the altitude, that is something that, especially as, the season wears on and players, as we've already seen now, dealing with various knocks, at least on Sporting Kansas City, after remaining relatively healthy this season. So and that's the game that they did see Roger Espinoza go down, Winston Reed go down. And so, you would hope that by the time they get back there, after having that experience of playing there already this season, that, maybe they'll be better prepared if they weren't already from a physical standpoint. But that's always a factor in that game.
Yeah, and
All
I
right,
think
go ahead, Carter.
Just quickly, as you've said, familiarity breeds contempt, right? You talked about that this weekend, and I think we're starting to see that in this Colorado matchup. A couple of games this year have been pretty chippy, so I'm kind of intrigued to see if that little bit of added chippiness to this matchup will carry through in that particular game as well.
Usually does when you start playing teams over and over and over again, and that's going to be the case with both FC Dallas and Colorado. That's going to do it for us on this edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show. Our thanks to Felipe Hernandez for joining us, for Carter Augustine, for Ali Trost. This is Nate Bukaty saying thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock for pregame show on Saturday, 2:30 for kickoff, Sporting KC versus FC Dallas, and we'll see you next week on the Sporting Kansas City Show.